clapboard, and we are back once again. And it is August. Can you believe it is August?
Yeah.
I think we're in show 31 now.
Wow.
Or something.
What month did we start then?
January. January 5th was our inaugural show.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So we are moving along smartly. We got a lot more shows to do. We got a lot of stuff today coming up. Today is one of our busier days.
3 interviews, right?
We've got 3 at 11:15. I know everybody's probably wondering, where have our LA Film Festival Future Filmmakers gone? Well, as we mentioned last week, they've been all over the place. Natalia's been in Italy. Some of our other filmmakers have been working on other projects, taking family vacations before they start college.
And they're making films, too.
And well,
right?
and as we're going to find out at 11:15 when Carol Nguyen calls, Carol did a short film at LA Film Festival called How Do You Pronounce Pho? It was the winner of the Elias Future Filmmaker Awards special mention for animated experimental film.
Okay.
She was a proud recipient of $100.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. It is a good film.
Isn't it?
Great film about what makes one authentic.
Yes.
So I really liked it.
And then she's all excited because she's got another film that she just finished within the past week called Silent Mourners that I am in love with. And as you pointed out, as Jordan pointed out, very eyes wide shut.
Very surreal.
Very surreal.
Yeah.
And when you watch the video later this week, you'll see, edit inserts depicting that. But also, you will see behind us today, we have images from 3 of Carol's movies. Then we have images from 2 of the other movies with the filmmakers we're going to talk to today.
You were inspired to put up those photos in the morning, right? You just came up with the idea.
This is what I do at 4:30 in the morning.
You were visualizing the show.
I was, because you know me, I like visual aids. And I don't want to keep doing Marvel superhero stuff.
Right.
So even though Marvel is very colorful and lovely, but why not pull some stuff from the actual films?
Yeah, definitely.
And at 11:30, we've got Alex Johnson joining us, the writer-director of Two Step, which it's a pot boiler.
Pot boiler,
A very slow, languid pot boiler. Bodes a great performance with Beth Broderick, who I have always loved her work.
And it's a very atmospheric thriller.
Very much so, and it really embraces Texas, which is where Alex is from, and I think the film debuted at South by.
Okay.
So it makes sense. And then 11:45, we have a very interesting film called They Look Like People. And instead of the director, because he's actually off working today, we're going to have the co-producers and the stars of the film, Evan Dumochel and Macleod Andrews, who are going to be joining us. This premiered at Slamdance. It is also going to be showing Sunday night at the Arclight Slamdance Cinema Club. Cool. So I will not.
It's interesting. It's kind of like a genre hybrid film.
It really is. Yeah. I mean, it gives them. I got the same kind of sensibility, and it's got high polish to it.
Right.
In many respects, Perry, the filmmaker, he did the cinematography himself, the editing himself, wrote, directed. So I'm curious to find out from the boys how this all worked, having essentially just the 3 of them and 1 or 2 other people involved in this production.
Wow. It
really harkens, for my money, it harkens back to what Shane Carruth did back in 2004 with Primer. Which, if you haven't seen it...
It's high praise, actually.
Have you seen Primer?
I've seen Carruth's his next one after that. What was it called? I forgot what it was called, but that was really good. It was really huge, actually.
I forget, but yeah, Primer was the first, and I fell in love with his work, and it was very out there, very psychological, and that's exactly what we have with They Look Like People.
This is not a pejorative, but you look at the production design and kind of the DIY filmmaking, and you think, wow, what would these filmmakers and actors do with so much more money?
Well,
and it still works as its budget, with a micro budget, and you go, wow, some studio has to give this filmmaker some money.
But the problem then becomes, and I've talked to a lot of directors about this, right? For what they make, the creativity that comes forth in these micro budget, low budget, no budget productions. Would they have done, some I've asked, would you have done anything different if you had more money? And they said probably not, because it was the creativity.
Right.
It was not having the money that spurred the creativity to bring out the best that they could offer. And I think that happens, we've seen that happen over the years once filmmakers get money.
We're not going to name names.
We're not naming names.
Yeah.
Well, one day I probably will. But today we're not going to name names, but you see certain directors, once they start getting money, it's wasted on screen. It's like where you're not delivering what you used to give us. The imagination isn't there. The creativity, the originality is not there.
But I guess it's also kind of creatively understandable because of, as you and I know, it's all by committee now with a higher ramp up with the budget. Unless you're someone like, even a guy like a Steven Soderbergh with more money, he suffered creatively the first couple of times and he had to actually go back and find his inspiration.
Find himself again.
And then he's one of the few filmmakers who can balance between the two. So it's a hard transition.
So that's one reason I love talking to these first-time feature directors, when they're young in their career.
Yeah.
Before they get jaded, before they get corrupted by the system, where they're still allowed to think for themselves and stand up for their principles.
Right. But you know from both films that the directors have a very, not just a visual stamp, but they both have an aesthetic that you can really tell.
Very much so.
This is their story, this is their film, this is their genre. And both of them are very tensely paced movies.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they really are. But you have a couple fun things you brought in today.
Yeah, you know what? There's a couple movies I saw yesterday. The first one, I think you've seen it, Adult Beginners.
I think it's adorable.
Yeah, you know, I was surprisingly touched by this movie. It's Nick Kroll from The League. He plays a startup guy who loses all his money, and he has to move back home to his Westchester County residence. And he moves in with his sister, played by Rose Byrne, and his brother-in-law, Bobby
Cannavale.
Cannavale. Is that how you pronounce his
Yeah.
name? But, you think with Nick Kroll it's going to be some cutesy, charming comedy with just a bunch of laughs and it's forgettable. But I was surprisingly moved by kind of the subtext of it. They both, they lost their mother, and the best parts of Adult Beginners comes from, I guess, the emotion. The emotion,
and as the brother-sister are rebonding. And then Bobby Cannavale, I've got to say, this has been his year.
Yeah.
I mean, Danny Collins, Adult Beginners, Spy, which was totally...
Yeah. I haven't seen either of those films.
He was so Andy Garcia.
Oh, really? In Spy?
Yes.
Yeah? He was doing an Andy Garcia riff, probably, maybe?
The suave, debonair,
Pulled it off?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was totally blown away and surprised.
Yeah. Also, one of the things I really loved about Adult Beginners was Nick Kroll's character. You think he's going to be this kind of... the arc is they start off jaded, but eventually they become really sentimental and sappy. But his character kind of just... without giving too much away, they don't go for the big moments in this movie.
No.
It's a very subtle comedy, and when you think of Adult Beginners, you think, okay, kind of like an Arrested Development cutesy thing, but it has a little bit more substance than that.
Yeah.
So that comes out on DVD and Blu-ray August 4th.
That's tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. And also coming out tomorrow on DVD only is Into the Grizzly Maze.
Okay, I want to hear about this.
Okay, here's the thing. Bart the Bear is a killer grizzly in the grizzly maze.
Bart the Bear.
Okay, yeah, Bart the Bear.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So the thing is, there's been a lot of poaching going on in the Alaskan wilderness, and a lot of bears have been killed and caught up in traps. And
how timely is this movie given what's happening in the world with Cecil the Lion? Yeah.
Totally. And James Marsden plays this kind of drifter, ex-convict who comes back into town, and he's out to actually find a friend, played by Adam Beach, who's lost in the Alaskan wilderness. And, I'm not going to say what happens to Adam Beach's character, but he comes back home. His brother is a sheriff, played by Thomas Jane. And eventually, they're brothers who don't like each other. That's kind of the subtext of the movie. But the thing is, they're tasked with hunting down this grizzly bear in the wilderness. Piper Perabo plays the wife of Thomas Jane, and it's their hunt, and they're kind of like The Edge meets The Revenant, kind of survival, deliverance. Oh, Billy Bob Thornton plays this tracker who's very eccentric, kind of like the Robert Shaw character from Jaws.
Okay.
I'm not going to say they're copying, but it's maybe inspired by that.
Inspired.
Yeah.
Like Jaws Deliverance blend.
Yeah, just like last week you were talking about how Southpaw has Rocky as its template. This movie has Jaws and maybe The Edge as its template.
Okay.
So, but it's out on DVD, and the way it looks like it'd be a cheaply made B movie, but it's a well-made B movie because of the top-line actors, Marsden, Jane, and
Thomas Jane. I will see Thomas Jane in anything.
Especially Hung, right?
Well, maybe.
Maybe. No, but it's a really good film. My only complaint with the DVD, it's worth checking out. There are no real special features, and I would have loved to have heard. Yeah, just maybe the director talking about shooting in the area and how he got all of these. Scott Glenn's in it. He's this lawman who,
of course, he is,
who has an encounter with a bear. It's not a really nice dance. So it's a really cool film. So these are 2 movies that are coming out August 4th, and that's what I spent my Sunday doing.
Oh, well, I spent my Sunday 7 hours doing live tweeting with TCM Party.
So you were live tweeting. What were the movies that you guys were
watching? TCM in the month of August has started the Summer Under the Stars, and every day they focus on a different star. Kicked off on Saturday with Gene Tierney. Yesterday was Olivia de Havilland. Today is Adolphe Menjou. Who else do we have coming up? Fred Astaire, Teresa Wright, Michael Caine. I can't wait for Michael Caine Day. Katharine Hepburn, Raymond Massey, Robert Walker. They try and get a lot of the smaller stars also and showcase them.
Yeah, Robert Walker is going to be a great day.
Well, and Bataan, Song of Love, 30 Seconds Over Tokyo, Madame Curie, Strangers on a Train are some of the films playing on his day. But yesterday, I picked up at the tail end of Gene Tierney.
Oh.
Yes.
The tail end.
The tail end of Gene Tierney Day with Advise and Consent, the Otto Preminger political thriller. It marked Betty White's film debut.
Oh, I had no idea.
Now you know.
All I know is I heard that Otto Preminger was one of the toughest filmmakers in Hollywood. Yeah. We've heard the stories. Very talented, though.
Very talented, but yes, definitely. But I started with that and then went into Heaven Can Wait.
Did you like that? Do you love that movie?
Heaven Can Wait?
Yeah.
I do like that movie.
Yeah.
I do like that movie.
I was surprised because I initially saw
I think it's Don Amici's. I think it's the best role of his career.
It's a very complex role too, and that movie isn't a comedy. It's really, in many ways, very heartbreaking.
It really is. So. But and I have to say, Lubitsch directs it, and the director of cinematographer was Ed Croninger, and I got to. He is one of the pioneers. Like, he won an Oscar for Cimarron. Okay. And when he shot Cimarron, he actually used 27 cameras at one time and 2 million feet of film shooting Cimarron.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
So he was also the first cinematographer to shoot CinemaScope underwater.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, these guys, this is one reason that I love classic films, because this is where it all began.
And the live tweeting is really cool. So
tweeting, anybody can join in. You've got a lot of people. You've got guys like Alan Haight. You've got Kelly Pratt, who's been on the show. Right. Aurora, who's done the show. So many of our TCM pals that we hook up with every year at the festival in person. But you just use hashtag TCM Party, and you can jump in. And so many things. We'll talk about costuming. We'll talk about lines of dialogue. And sometimes when it's very campy, we'll do, drink whenever this happens, or, it's drink. But yesterday were some interesting films. It paired up Bette Davis and Olivia de Havilland in This Our Life, it's a killer. It is a killer.
Not literally, though, right?
Literally.
Oh, okay. Literally.
And
I've never seen it.
As well as Elizabeth and Essex. And one of the interesting things with those two films is the fact that Ori Kelly did the costuming. So you have this ornate period piece for Elizabeth and Essex with de Havilland, Flynn. That was their 5th of 9 films they did together. It was Davis's first film, Bette Davis's first film in color.
Wow, yeah.
So, and this is the kind of stuff that we impart and tweet about.
Very quickly, what's great is I've seen most of these classic films when I was in 8th and 9th grade, 10th grade. And for people like you guys who are tweeting on TCM Party, if I was a teenager, I'd probably have my iPad looking at the news feed of TCM Party while watching the film, just as an educational tool as well.
And that's what we're all doing, because we're going back and forth with each other and retweeting and commenting and favoriting. And
that's great.
Yeah.
So I have to join in.
You have to. It is so much fun. And, every once in a while, Ben Mankiewicz joins in. Ileana Douglas joins in.
Okay, yeah.
Debbie Reynolds has even joined in 1 or 2 times.
That's awesome, yeah.
With just 1 or 2 little tweets. But right now, is this my fabulous future filmmaker, Carol Nguyen?
Yes, it is. Hello.
Hi, Carol. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Fine. Welcome to Behind the Lens. I'm here with my cinematic cohort, Greg Srisavasdi. Greg has seen your short films as well.
Hello.
You're by the way, you're more talented than I ever will. So will be.
Oh, stop.
So, good job on the films.
So how exciting, because you've actually had films in several film festivals.
Yes.
How exciting is it for you when you find out that one of your films is in a festival?
It's very exciting. I mean, as a youth filmmaker, we don't get a lot of opportunities to show our films on such a huge screen. So I think every time that I get the opportunity, I'm so excited.
So how excited were you at LA Film Festival when you got the Special Mention Award of the Elias Future Filmmaker Award for How Do You Pronounce Pho?
I really did not expect that, because there were so many talented filmmakers there, and I was so giddy when I received the email. I wasn't able to make it in person because I had exams, boo, but I was just so giddy and jumping up and down.
Well, good. I'm very glad. I mean, look, any short film that has food in it, and Maggie McKay with Film Independent, Maggie is the one that spearheaded the whole Future Filmmakers, and Maggie is the one that selected the recipients of the awards. I didn't get to pick. Boo hiss on that. But yeah, so you had food. So when Maggie's picking and there's food involved, you got a pretty good shot. But it's a beautiful, beautiful little experimental film. You really implement. You've got, your blurred focus background. You've got, deep focus in the front. How do you go about? Let's talk about Pho first, and then we're going to talk about your new one, Silent Mourners, that I'm in love with.
Thank you.
How do you go about doing your visual design for your films?
Well, when I create a film, I usually think of the concept before I think of the image, and I think the image usually arrives after. So when I was thinking about this idea, I came about the concept of food and how it's so universal, and I really wanted this film to be very simple and not very, busy, because I wanted the viewer to focus more on the words that I was saying rather than the images.
Now, transitioning to Silent Mourners, what was the inspiration behind that as far as the concept and just creating that imagery for your film?
Again, I usually start with the concept. So during the time I was feeling pretty down, and my sister showed me this piece by Kendrick Lamar, and it was called Mortal Man from his album To Pimp a Butterfly, and there was one line that just really hit me, and it was, a caterpillar's job is to consume everything around it. And I felt like that was the perfect metaphor for what I felt at that moment, because at that moment in my life, and maybe I'm still trying to transition out of it, I felt like I was internalizing everything. I wasn't able to project. I was just internalizing everything people told me, all my feelings, all my thoughts, and I just felt like I was that caterpillar.
Well, I have to say, something I'm noticing with your work, Carol, in each of your films, because I went through all of your, and everybody can look at Carol's films at Carol Nguyen Films on YouTube, by the way. Go look at them. They're fabulous. But each one, you seem to focus on a different technical aspect. Silent Mourners is very, very visual, but your sound. You were right when you told me turn the sound up. It is I turned it all the way up and put headphones on. Blew my mind.
Thank you.
Where did you and then This Home Is Not Empty. there again, you focus on a totally different kind of visual design and sound. You're not big on dialogue in your films. You like these to be sensory, is what I get with all of your films. Is this by design?
I think it's more of a personal decision for me. I think maybe you can also see this in Silent Mourners, but I'm not quite confident with projecting these personal ideas quite yet. So I often hide them through a lot of like metaphors and imagery instead of just saying it straight up.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things I love about your work is the metaphor, is the tacit metaphor that you put forward. And I think that's a testament to you as a storyteller. And as far as I'm concerned, it just means that as you go on through your career, you're just going to get better and better. And your metaphors are going to deepen, I think. They're already pretty deep now. But I think, you're where you're heading, because I see the growth in your work, too, as we go through each of your films.
Thank you.
Now, Silent Mourners, I have to know, did you use real caterpillars, and what friend did you get to lay there and put caterpillars all over her face?
I'm so thankful for my main actor. She was a gem while I was working with her. There were a lot of scenes where she was squirming. But I have to tell you, working with live creatures is so much harder than working with people because you can't direct them. So you just sit there and wait. Like that one scene when I wanted the butterfly's wings to be open on her face, we literally sat there for 3 hours until we got the perfect shot.
Oh, my God.
So that being said, within those 3 hours, are you a very demanding director on your actors?
I would say like a medium level.
Cool.
But now, W.C. Fields always said, don't work with animals or small children. But when we think of animals, we think of like dogs, cats, horses, pigs. You're going for caterpillars and butterflies?
Yeah. It was even harder because working with actors, you could just get rid of them after the film's done. And I had to take care of these live creatures in my house, and my parents were upset, and I was like, I can't just like release them. They're going to die.
How did you get the butterflies onto the face and to stay there?
The lady who I bought the caterpillars off of and the butterflies, she suggested that we feed them orange Gatorade. So we just dabbed a little orange Gatorade on her face.
Oh, I'm sure that was a lovely facial exfoliant for the day. You've got one heck of an actor there. And who was your actor that went through all of this difficult stunt work for you?
Her name is Maggie Keogh.
Oh, my God. Now, would you work with Maggie again? Better question, would Maggie work with you again?
I'm not sure, but I would definitely work with Maggie again.
What in general right now, what inspires you about making films? Is it just creating, telling the story, or kind of everything?
I think everything, and as cheesy or cliche as it may sound, film is a way for me to express what I can't say verbally, and things that I can't say to other people or even to myself, I say through film. And I think it's a confrontational moment, like maybe even a gesture of acceptance or coming to terms with something for me.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you about This Home Is Not Empty. Did you make all of the paper houses, the little paper, the little diorama? Did you construct all of that yourself?
Yes, I did.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
I cannot recommend this highly enough for a really beautiful visual, and the denatured soft blue you have, absolutely stunning. And that's a textured paper, like a papyrus you used, isn't it?
Yes.
absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous work, Carol.
Dumb question. How long does that take to actually create all of this?
Well, for a month straight, I came home from school and I worked on that project until midnight, and that's how long it took.
Wow. Wow. And that's before you even then start shooting.
Yeah.
What kind of camera do you like to use when you shoot? Do you have a preference already, or?
Well, I only have the Canon camera, the DSLR.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to be presented with another camera, then maybe I'd try that. But for now, that's all I have.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. There are companies out there like Red and some of the others that often they will loan you equipment to go and they will loan you equipment to shoot things, and then you endorse, you agree to talk about using the product and how great it is. That's what Kevin Smith does with Avid. He loves Avid, and he actually went to the broadcasting convention in Vegas a couple years ago, biggest crowd they ever had, and gave a whole presentation on using Avid, and that's the only editing system he uses.
Well,
so
I'm not sure I'm on that prestigious level yet.
But there are companies that might start small. I actually have some contact info, and I'll email it to you.
That would be great.
So that you can, is there a camera you'd like to try? For some of
I would like to try the more big known cameras in the industry, like the Red or like the Black Magic. That would be really cool.
I was going to say the Black Magic is an incredible, incredible camera, especially the new ones. I mean, you can pick those up now for $3,000.
Yeah.
Carol, I'm sure your family's proud of whatever film you do, but specifically, what was their reaction to This Home Is Not Empty the first time they saw your cut?
I really don't exactly know what they thought. I think they didn't really get the metaphor. Specifically, my mom, she was like, so why did you burn the house down? Like, our house didn't burn down in real life. And I'm not that type of person to just explain it, since it's very personal and very close to my family. So I was just like, well, it just did, Mom, and just carried on.
Now, what did
very
Mom?
Awkward conversation.
What did Mom think about how do you pronounce pho, especially since you thanked her in the credits?
She thinks it's her film, mostly because she made the food and everything. So every time it wins an award, she's like, "My film won."
So how many awards has pho won now?
A lot. I think about a dozen now.
Wow. So now, are you going to be submitting Silent Mourners to any film festivals?
Yes. But with experimental films, it's quite a toss-up because film festivals either love or hate experimental films.
Yeah. Tell me about it. I've executive produced a couple experimental ones. They can't get in anywhere. So you're ahead of me in the game, Carol. You're doing better than I'm doing. So now, where will you be this fall? High school, college? What are you going to be doing?
I'm entering my last year of high school.
Which high school do you go to?
I go to Etobicoke School of the Arts, and it's in Toronto. And then hopefully I'll be attending maybe a school in New York for film the year after.
Any school in particular you're interested in?
I'm scoping out SVA, School of Visual Arts. But a lot of the prestigious schools are just way too expensive for me.
Yes, American higher education. It prices you out. It's buy a camera or go to school.
Yeah.
So what do you have on your plate in terms of more films that you're going to be making in your senior year?
Well, I'm currently working on a film right now. I'm working on 2 projects, actually, so I don't want to look into the future just yet. I'm working on in post-production, I'm working on a film that I made at Prodigy Camp, if you've ever heard of that.
I have.
And I'm currently in pre-production of a comedy film, my first ever comedy film that I'm co-directing with my friend.
You're going to let me see both of them, aren't you?
Of course.
Well, Carol, I can't thank you enough for calling in. And when you finish your other films, I hope you'll call back in again so we can talk about them.
I will.
Thank you so much, Carol, and I will email you that other information.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure, Carol. I'll talk to you again soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Very focused.
And
very focused. Yeah.
we're going to take a short break so Jordan can change a battery.
Okay.
When we come back, we have Alex Johnson to talk about the wonderful two-step.
Behind the Lens is sponsored in part by the Culver City Observer. Located in the heart of Screenland, Culver City Observer is available in print and online at www.culvercityobserver.com.
And we are back to Behind the Lens. I'm Debbie Lynn Elias, MovieSharkDoubleur.com. Sitting here to my right is the incomparable cinematic cohort, Greg Srisavasdi, DeepestDream.com.
I am comparable, by the way.
Okay, fine. All right, whatever. We just had a lovely conversation with LA Film Festival Future Filmmaker, one of the winners of Elias Future Filmmaker Award, Carol Nguyen, calling from Toronto. See, people think we're joking when we say we've got people all over the world.
And like we said, she's a very focused filmmaker.
Oh, my God.
She doesn't waste time.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, she is a visionary, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for Carol. Yeah. And it's great that we get to talk to these kids and meet them now at the beginning of their careers, so that years from now we'll be able to say, I knew you when.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now we have another director here that we'll be able to say one day, oh, we knew him when. Alex Johnson, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. I was just listening to the delayed show, and then to come in on that line, it's thank you.
Two-step. This is an atmospheric. It's a well-crafted, atmospheric, moody thriller that it just engrosses you. It draws you in, and the fact that you have Beth Broderick, who I think is so underrated as an actress, thrilled me to no end.
She's great. We were so lucky that she was in Austin, and she's still in Austin. But I didn't know she was there, and my casting director told me, and was like, no question, let's just go talk to her right now.
Oh my God, yeah, and people don't realize that they think of Beth and they think of comedy. Most people remember her from Sabrina the Teenage Witch as Aunt Hilda.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But she has so much depth and texture to her, and you really brought that out with her performance as Dot in Two-Step.
Thank you. She dug the role, and Dot was a really important character to me. It was a lot of fun to write, and when we first talked about it, she got it and knew where she could take it beyond what I did. So I was very excited.
Well, in addition to Beth, you also bring in veteran Barry Tubb, who's been around forever.
Mm-hmm.
But then you balance their veteran expertise with the relative newcomers, Sky Moore and James Landry Hebert.
Yes, a bear.
A
bear, yes.
A bear.
A bear. Easy to remember once you hear it.
I'm watching this, and I'm watching James, and all I can think of is, oh my God, he's reminding me of Joe Anderson's performance in Supremacy.
Interesting.
I mean, he really, as Webb, he just dove right in with brutality, and a slick brutality, though. There's a slickness that turns to brutality, and you see that simmer under the surface. And I think a lot of that is a testament to your script, which, where did a story like this come from?
Well, I had just moved to Austin from 18 years in New York, in Brooklyn, and so there was definitely kind of the just absorbing of Texas and what it was all new to me. So it was very exciting. The grandparent scam that sort of starts the plot going something I had been holding on to literally since I think '89. I think I saw it on 2020. Just a little story about that, and I've always thought it was an interesting scam. But when I got older, kind of the depth of it and the additional layers of sadness of the scam, in order for the scam to work, that you need the grandparent to want to really desperately need to want to talk to their grandkid. Sorry, just sending something to voicemail, of course. And then also moving to Texas after living in apartments for 3 years. I talk about this a lot. I just got obsessed with the fact that I only had one door to my house. I'm used to apartments with multiple doors, and you just false sense of security, fine. But the idea that, okay, someone could just kick this door down. So besides obsessing about home invasion and the usual spiders and things like that when you first moved to Austin, it all just kind of came together and just kind of gelled by being in Texas at the time, and it just sort of developed organically from there.
Now, when you were writing and the story was coming together, did you know that you would direct it, and were you visualizing the scenes in your head and making and starting to make shot lists or storyboards with some visual notes?
Definitely. I wasn't doing any storyboards, but I was writing for me. We had been trying to make another film for about 3 years, and it was a frustrating process. And we had money, and but it's a much more complex production. Mm-hmm. Takes place all in the Andes, and we kept getting big name actors attached that really wanted to do it, but kind of the nightmare of shooting around a rainy season and name actor schedules just became so. We were never going to make the film, And so I had started writing two-step, and I just didn't tell anybody that I wanted to. The plan was basically to write two-step and then convince all parties, financial and otherwise, to invest in this. And it worked out. So I was writing for myself. So I write pretty descriptive visual direction in my script, and agents and managers tell me not to. But I like it. It helps me, and I think it makes the reading a more enjoyable experience personally.
When you're writing it for yourself to direct, I think it makes perfect sense as long as you don't go overboard and have pages of visual description.
Yeah, definitely. Nothing like that, but just if where camera movement's important, framing's important, or it's important to how I want to present it, then certainly I put it in there.
Just from watching your film, I was thinking about you as a movie fan. It seems to me that you maybe, and this is just a guess, maybe you grew up on some of the great film noirs and thrillers of yesteryear. Was that true, or was this just a story that just, like you said, just came organically and you just delved into the genre?
Well, I think that's true for sure. And, I studied film theory and had romantic visions of, teaching and wearing patches on my elbow and writing screenplays every now and then. And then I discovered, how harsh the world was, and got a real job. But I and realized I couldn't just write screenplays and teach, and that wasn't going to happen that way. But I certainly, that was when I was doing film studies. That's what I obsessed over that stuff. I love that stuff, and then it's just very hard to not. There is Texas noir is almost its own thing, and Blood Simple was a film that was very important to me. I think I saw it. I was a teenager in D.C. at the time, and it just resonated with me, and it always stuck with me. And it's hard to not kind of get into that, especially when you get into Texas. You just want to tell a story in that language. It's addictive.
And how did Andrew Lillian, your DP, come to you? Because the visuals are beautiful, and they're very nuanced, down to the little twinkle lights, the neons backlit with a deep focus in the bar, with the birds on the telephone wires, which probably half the country won't even know what that is. But, but all these little details, but then the lighting is very Texas specific as well.
Andy is someone I've worked with a lot on commercials. I've been in production my whole adult life. I started at Maisels in '94 as a PA, and ended up working my way up to producer for commercials and documentaries, and at different other production companies. But Andy's someone that I've always hire whenever I get the chance, and I never worked with him where I was the director. I'd only worked with him where I was the producer. But I've hired him on tiny jobs and large jobs, and I just saw that constant commitment. No matter what the budget, no matter what it was, when Andy was on the job, he was committed, and I loved his eye. And we had been talking for a long time about working together, and so once we knew we were going to do it, I sent it to him, and he said, "Yep, I'm in." And we shot on the Alexa.
I was going to say,
which he was one of the first. I think he was one of the first owners on the East Coast. In New York, owner operators, and so he knows that camera. He knows the subtleties of it. He knows both the science and the art of it, and so he knows what he can do with it. And so beyond just the eye, the framing, his knack for lighting, he knew ways we could move fast. We did a lot of lighting with just practicals, setups where we could just flip things pretty easily. But yeah, he's great. He's a wonderful DP, and and another great choice that Andy made. And I'm not going to know the lenses exactly, but we were talking about the Alexa and about shooting it, and he made the very smart recommendation that we go with some older lenses. So we just don't have the uber crisp edges around everything.
I was going to say,
it feels like it has some texture.
It looks like you were shooting with some anamorphics.
We didn't, but yeah, we certainly were influenced by that with what we had. We thought about going anamorphic, and we didn't.
And just very quickly, your sound design is fantastic. It's another character in the narrative. How important generally was sound design in capturing that kind of, I guess, that bed in your narrative? Talk about that process.
Well, I obviously, as a filmmaker, sound design is important, but we were so lucky to have Sonic Magic do our sound design. They fell in love with the film, and we had a limited budget, and they wanted to help us, and so they worked with our budget and just did such an amazing job to the point where it's obvious obviously their specialty, but just the little things they did that just heightened every scene were just incredible. Funny thing, when I was listening to one of the mixed downs when we got to one of the more brutal scenes, and I was having trouble with the scene, and I said, I was like, could we tomato squish the face punch sounds just by like 20%? And they laughed and said I was in denial of the movie I had made. But but yeah, it's incredible, and it really does heighten. I mean, it's a combination of the sound design and the score, because there are times where the score does kind of similar psychological sound design stuff. So I knew that we had to really fill out the sound, fill people's ears.
Yeah, I mean, and the score, I'm glad you brought it up. I mean, the score does not run beginning to end. It's very judiciously placed. And then you've got a Western vibe, but oftentimes a slight techno edge to it that just drives the thriller aspect home, that I found quite interesting and worked really well with the visual and the emotional tonal bandwidth.
Thank you. And that was Andrew Kenny, who did the score as his first score. He'd worked with me on some shorts, and I had hired him for some commercial work before, but it was his first score, and he, to use the phrase, he knocked it out of the park. He did an amazing job.
Well, hire the man again.
I know, this time I'll pay him, right?
Alex, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. I hope you will call back again when we have a lot more time. We can talk about some of your projects.
I'd love to.
I mean, an absolute thrill. And Two Step is in theaters now. Limited release. When's it going digital and DVD Blu-ray?
September 1st is VOD on demand. I mean, everywhere on all platforms. DVD is not. There's no date yet, but I think we're gonna have to do that.
Well, I think so. And maybe after we get on VOD, you can call back and we can spend more time talking about the film.
I would love to. Thank you for having me.
Oh, Alex, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye. Take care.
Okay, and now we are going to jump. Are you going to help me with this, Brian? Okay, you know me and buttons. I can't do buttons. I can't do buttons.
Save the day.
And now they look like people. And really, if you watch this movie, they really do. Evan, Dumochel, and Macleod Andrews.
Hi, how's it going?
Hello, boys. How
Hi.
are you? So,
Great. Very well.
Now, do you look like people today, or
Hardly.
hardly?
Yeah, I look a little bit like a Yeti today. I've been letting my beard grow out for a few weeks there. So.
Well, why not? You're not shooting right now, are you?
Right.
Yeah. So you're not only are you the lead actors, two of the only actors in the film as Christian and Wyatt, but you're also producers.
Correct.
How do you produce yourselves? For those that have not had this experience yet.
Well,
I'd
venture, this is McLeod. I'd venture to say we probably approach it in a pretty unique way that's maybe not for everyone. To be general about it with a whole lot of teamwork and good communication to sort of pool our limited resources and just bang it out.
Well,
I think on the front end, I mean, there was a certain amount of planning that we had to do, and then when we got into shooting itself, I think that our primary focus in the midst of the shooting days had to be on our performances, always with an ear to what it is that you're trying to get done and keeping yourself on task and the schedule. I mean, I think it really came into play when Margaret Drake would be on set and McLeod and I would be rehearsing our lines the night before, but also making sure that we had all the peanut butter and jellies in place for our lunch the next day. I mean, it's the glamorous side of producing and acting at the same time.
Okay, I'm just surprised that your budget allowed for you to have peanut butter and jelly.
Some days we had to skimp.
Oh,
It was like, do we want to have the prop basketball or do we want PB&J?
That's a tough call. And of course, how did this project come to you? This is Greg and I were talking about this earlier at the top of the show, and when I watched this, I kept thinking of Shane Carruth's Primer back from 2004, which blew my mind and set up this whole psychological ideal that makes you think. And that's exactly what we see unfolding here with Perry Blackshear's script and through his direction and his editing and his cinematography. That also helps on low budget, no budget when you have a director who does everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's indispensable. I mean, that was...
How did this come to you guys? Because this is not a run-of-the-mill storyline.
Evan, I think you could probably answer that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the story itself came to Perry through a personal experience. He had a good friend of his who went through a similar, though less dramatized version of Wyatt's arc in the film. And, Perry was there for him in reality as much as he could, but really was thinking about how we should all be available for people on the larger scale and how sometimes we aren't, particularly New York, where people have their knives out all the time and they're afraid of getting hurt or hurt again and protecting themselves and really trying to tell a story about people who open up to one another and show up for one another. And then practically speaking, McLeod and I have known of Perry's genius for a long time and really, really wanted to work together. And so I took it upon myself as a friend and also a badger, and we really worked it into Perry's head that we can do this and that we can make this happen. And then he stepped up to the plate and presented us with plane tickets, and the rest is history. He wrote the script in just a few weeks, and we had tickets, and we had dates, and we had time off of work, so it was time to make a movie.
Wow. How did you decide who would be Christian and who would be Wyatt?
I think we just let Perry cast it.
Yeah.
He sort of wrote it with us in mind and had sort of, was envisioning us in those specific roles as he wrote it, I think. Am I forgetting anything, Evan?
Well, just that, even that was up for discussion in the beginning as he was writing it. And I remember originally in the very preliminary conversations I'd been talking with Perry about, like character arcs and characters we get to play in other projects and how we want to play characters that are different than that in what we make together. And I know that for me, I had said, I tend to try to play these moody, dark characters. I'd like to play a character who exists in the sort of available plane to society. Although the phrasing of that sentence places me other than. But I think you get where I'm going with that.
That was poetic, man.
Hey, well,
thanks, man. Well, it's in perpetuity on the radio.
Hey, because, yes, this will be archived. It will be on the iTunes podcast. It will be on my website. It will be on the Adrenaline Radio. And it's being videoed, so it'll be everywhere.
There's a camera in my hotel room?
There's 2 of them, actually. There's actually 2 of them. But, nobody knows that. They'll find out later. Now, what is it about the script? Because the way the script is written, the way you guys play the film, it's, is Wyatt going crazy? Is something really happening? You really walk that fine line between fact and fiction, reality and psychotic breakdown.
Thank you.
What spoke to you when you read this script?
I think the biggest things that rang, that were recognizable for us were just, the elements of trust that are engendered in long-time friendships. Because the 3 of us, have all been friends for a long time, and Evan and I have been friends for a long time, and I think just the lengths to which you're willing to put yourself out there for a friend who needs your help was, I think, incredibly resonant. And in no small part because, in a large way, we were doing that very thing by making this film together. We were all taking a leap of faith together and putting a lot of trust in each other and going on a kind of crazy, stressful journey together. And we came out the other side. And so I think that kind of worked its way. That just very fact of how we were making the movie worked itself into the narrative. And I think that was really resonant for the 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
What is it just like acting opposite a great friend, especially during some of the more emotional sequences in the narrative? Was that an easy process, or was that something that you guys had to work out?
It's funny. Macleod and I are both actors, although we have tended up until this project to work with each other in ways other than, I've directed Macleod in a play, and I've seen a bunch of his work, but I haven't had the chance to work with him as much as I would have liked. And so we both showed up, and I remember one day Macleod sort of looked at me and he's like, "Man, you're bringing it." And I was like, "Of course I am, man." And then we both realized that we were there to do it for real, and we could use our relationship that exists outside. You can't help but do that. But it was our first chance to really play together. And so in some ways it was wonderful and liberating and safe to work with one another. And then in some ways it was like a whole unexplored frontier because we hadn't done much of it together before.
Yeah.
Well, I just hope the 2 of you work together again on screen because you play so well together.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thanks. We hope that too.
We have plans. We have plans.
Your moms would be very happy that you share the sandbox.
Yeah.
Now,
and they are.
Now, the film already showed at Slamdance, but now Sunday night the film will be on the great big screen at the Arclight in Hollywood as part of the Arclight Slamdance Cinema Club.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Of course, you're not
Sunday, August 9th at 8 p.m., folks.
Yeah, of course, you're not having me moderate your Q&A, but we won't go there. We won't go
Take it
there.
offline.
That's the right choice, by the way. That's the right choice. Just want to throw that out there. Just kidding.
I think she's doing great here.
Okay, yeah.
No, I love moderating the cinema club stuff, but I won't hold it against you that, you didn't want me to do yours. I'm just going to guilt you. That's all I'm going to do.
I know I'm feeling that. It's hot.
How exciting is it for you? Because you've seen this on the Slamdance screens. They don't compare to the Arclight screen. Have you seen the film yet on something with the sound that the Arclight has, with a screen that is that big, that beautiful, that pristine?
I don't think we have seen it with something as good as the Arclight. I saw another one of the Slamdance screening series. I saw Yosemite there a couple weeks ago, and it's just the theaters are so beautiful.
Yeah.
The screen is so sharp and clean and really great, and the sound is excellent. I'm at Fantasia right now in Montreal, and we just screened last night in a fantastic theater with really great sound, and that was a really special experience. We had a full house, and it was pretty remarkable and unique. But I can't even begin to imagine what it's going to be like to be sitting in the place where I go to see movies.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited.
That's the touchstone for me. I just keep on thinking that I go to see movies at this place, and my movie is going to be playing here. It sends me for a spin. It's great.
Well, everybody needs to get tickets. I know there's still tickets available, but as good as this film is, and as popular as the two of you are, I don't think tickets are going to be available too much longer. So people need to go to arclightcinemas.com, and they can buy them now, guarantee their seat for Sunday night. And of course, there's that really great sushi place right there too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
C, right? Sushi C or something?
The blue sushi, whatever that one is. But it's so they can make a night of it. And
absolutely. There's great bars all around.
That's true. That one drink,
including in the lobby of the Arclight, if you really don't want to go too far.
And of course, one drink will be more than half of the budget for the film. So it will amaze people even more what you guys pulled off.
But beautiful production design.
The production design, your production values are stunning.
Yep.
Stunning.
Oh,
thank you.
Yeah,
I'll pass that along to Perry. He's up here with me.
Perry's really a master. It just makes me think about the lighting, and he would know the color values and the wattages of the standard household bulbs that you could buy in certain places, and put them in such a way to light our scene to look like a beautiful film, which it is, with what he can buy at the hardware store. It's really a special skill.
And guys, we are running overtime now, and they're going to kill me in a minute. So Thank you so much for joining us. Maybe I'll even come see you Sunday night. They look like people. And Evan and McLeod, thank you. And I will see you guys soon. And that's it for Behind the Lens, guys.